I give a lot of presentations about how to grow your business, how to expand your business, how to take your business and not only grow your revenue, grow your reach, and really the idea of transformation. And for many people, they want to know those tactics. They want to know specifically what they should be doing in social media, what they should be doing in email marketing. Should they be incorporating courses or not? How should they change their business or look at new audiences? And those questions are great. Those questions are important. And those questions can really be the foundation of the change that you ultimately will need in your business. However, today I want to go beyond those tactical changes. I want to go beyond the skills that sometimes you need to build to be able to grow your business. And I want to talk about these critical mindset shifts that also have to happen because even if you put the tactics in place that I recommend, even if you start doing social media, email marketing, live streaming, or whatever marketing tools you're using differently, if you haven't had this mindset shift, what can happen is you don't get the most out of what you're doing. And also, you can kind of resort back to the old way of doing something. So today we want to talk about not only the idea of what can you do to facilitate a business transformation, but why you need to start thinking about leveling up in your business. All right, let's dive in. So, when I talk about leveling up, I'm really talking about the idea that you have to change your perspective. For many of us, when we're running our businesses, and especially when you start a business, you have a very specific perspective. You're really feeling like you're pushing against the grain. You really feel like you're trying to kind of it's almost like getting the engine going in a car, in a sense, if you've ever driven an older car. And the idea is you feel like there's so much resistance to just get done the basic processes of getting a website up and running, of, picking the name, of getting your first client. Many of those things are strong uphill battles. And for many of you who are listening to this and watching this, you've overcome that. But the skills it took for you to get started are different than the skills that you need to grow. Because often when we start our businesses, we have to bootstrap. We have to wear multiple hats. We have to do things maybe to the best of our ability. And sometimes we may not have the skills in house to do it, may not have the funds to do what we'd like to do, or sometimes we just don't have the time. So therefore, your approach has to be grounded in where you are, has to be grounded in where you're trying to go. And for many of us, when we're starting our businesses, we have very specific goals. We have very specific things that you should be focused on, which is really getting that first customer, getting those first people to come through the doors, to order on your website, to buy your product, to give you feedback, and so forth. But once you've done that, once you've started to see those sales come in, once you've started to establish your business and your rhythm, you have to continue to up your game. You have to continue to get better at what you're doing. You have to find ways that your business becomes more efficient. And to do that, your mindset has to change. You have to think about your business differently. And one of the things that I think is really common for many of us who start a business, especially either as a solopreneur or we start a business with just yourself and a partner, the world of your business tends to revolve around you. And what that means is everything you do, everything that's going on requires your touch point, requires you to take a look at it, requires you to approve it, to review it. Even if you hire freelancers, work with other people, what happens is all roads kind of go through you as the approval process. But when you're starting to level up, when you're starting to move to a different process, what has to happen is people in your organization, people in your business, or projects that you used to own and manage need a new home. At times, what happens is not everything should go through you. Not everything should require your approval. And ultimately, what should happen is there should be speed lanes in your business where your team members or individuals can actually get things done. Now, for some of you, you're like, Stephanie, wait, slow down. I'm still a solopreneur. I don't have a ton of people working for me, or we're just a small team. So that sounds good if you were talking about a big company. But for me, when I'm small, what do you mean by leveling up? And some of this has to do with looking at the way that you've done something, looking at the way that you've managed things, looking at the way that you use the systems that you had at your fingertips to get you started. But now it's time to go to that new level. So if we use an example like social media, maybe you've been in social media posting every day. Maybe you've been in social media designing all of your images. Maybe you've been in social media writing all your content, and maybe you wake up in the morning and write content and so forth. But as your business grows, as a solopreneur, your time is going to get more and more allocated to your clients. More of your time is going to shift to fulfilling what your clients need, whether it's a product that you actually sell, so you got to be, in the garage shipping it out, or if you're in coaching or training mode, you're going to be on calls with clients. And as that time shifts, what you have to do is figure out, how do you give the same level of attention to your social media? Or maybe a better way to say it is, how do you get the same results that you were getting in your social media when your time has to shift? What happens for most of us when we're running a business, we just assume we work more. We work more hours. We just work until, we're just exhausted at night. But that's not a smart way of working. What I need you to do is, I need you to start to say, how can I do this differently? What kind of post can I do in social media differently? How can maybe I cut back on the volume of post, but increase the quality of those posts so I can get a good response? Now, I'm using the example of social media just because we're in social media right now for many of you who are watching us live. And for many of you, social media is one of those things that just eats away at our time. But the reality is, this is for everything in your business. You have to start to figure out, how do you create fast lanes, even if it's just you? How do you start to do things like batching your work? Instead of doing everything in real time, one thing that I started to do when I wanted to better organize my business is I started to do invoicing on the 1st and the 15th of the month, instead of me just doing invoicing randomly at times. What happened is, when I was doing it randomly at times, I kind of had this like start and stop process. I had this process where I would start working on something, then I start working on something else, and I never get the full benefit of not only getting that full project done, but being able to optimize the process, because I was always doing it in between other activities. Where now I do things like invoicing, I do things like paying my team, I do things like writing content, I do things like creating videos, I do anything that I have to do on a monthly basis, I batch them together. So therefore, I can have a more productive experience when I'm doing it, because I can do 10 videos in a row and I can see and make sure my lighting is good. I can see, okay, what kind of, look or background do I want to do? How do I make these a little bit different? How do I want to do my intros? And by looking at them as a process that I do once a month, what I'm able to do is, I'm able to make sure in that moment, in that sitting down or that creative moment, I can do more and get more out of it. Now, that's just a simple way of me leveling up. Because instead of me just jumping in front of a camera at any old place at any old time and just knocking things out, by me doing batching, I started to save time. It started to actually reduce the amount of time it took me to do the videos. It also allowed me to come up with a flow and a process. And I would come up with a flow and a process before I got started. So my videos started to have a consistent look, a consistent framework, and so forth. And that's what I found over the years, is that the more and more I started to come up with a process around the things I was doing, I was able to optimize. Now, what does that have to do with leveling up? What does that have to do with the idea of going big? What does that have to do with the idea of bootstrapping versus the investment? The idea here in your business is what you have to do is when you want your business to be better, when you want your business to grow, when you want your business to go to a new place, you have to sit down and look for tasks, look for things that you do on a consistent basis. You have to look for things that are actually happening in your business. And therefore, because they're things that you do over and over and over, often that's where you start to do your leveling up. That's where you start to say, is there a better way for me to do this? Now, when I talk about this level of leveling up, this is on what I kind of call leveling up in the small ways. This is you kind of looking at what you do and starting to say, can I make it better? Can I make this process different? Can I look at it from a different perspective and improve it? And that's where I want most of you to start. When you're thinking about leveling up your business, I don't want you to think, oh goodness, Stephanie wants me to hire a ton of people. Oh, Stephanie wants me to go out there and just wreck the entire process or the way my business is ran. Absolutely not. What I want you to do is start to look for ways to do things better, to start to look for ways to batch ideas and work on projects and work on things not in this kind of helter-skelter kind of approach, but more sitting down intentionally to work on things. The reason I want you to start that small way of leveling up is because it starts to create a habit. It starts to create a discipline around looking at what you're doing and looking at it from an objective perspective. Because what happens is in a day when things are just going on, you're just trying to get it done. You're just trying to get that email out, trying to get the presentation done, trying to get through the notes that you need to send to someone. You're just getting through your meetings of the day. And therefore, in real time, you're really often just at that output moment. But when you start to optimize, when you start to look at your tasks, your activities, the things that you're doing, and start to bring them together, analyze them, and see how you can make them better, you're starting to say, yes, this has served me well, but there might be a way I can do it better. And that perspective and that mindset shift of being comfortable with the idea that you can do what you do now and even something that you do well better is something that's an important skill for all of us to master as entrepreneurs. Now, I don't mean the nitpicking approach. I don't mean looking at what you do and saying, oh, that was bad. Oh, that was a problem. I should have done that better. That's not what we're talking about. I don't want you to be a critic, of your work. What I want you to do instead is literally say, okay, this is something that takes me 4 hours every month. This is something that takes me 2 days every month. What can I do so that I can get time back from myself by actually optimizing this process? What can I do that if this takes me 4 hours every month, can I do it differently? So maybe it'll only take me 2 hours every month. Or if it takes me 2 days every month, what can I do differently? So maybe it only takes me 1 day each month. And now what you're doing is you're looking at your process. You're looking at what you do. You're looking at how you approach things. And you're looking for ways to make them better, not critique or criticize what you do. Hey, Gloria, it's great to see you. Thanks for showing up. All right, so that's number one. That's leveling up in small ways. And I wanted to start there because I know not all of us are ready to just change everything. It's been a crazy year. It's been hard times. It's a lot of change we've all had to adjust to. And therefore, you may be at your max of change right now. So I wanted to give you some basic things that you can do. But when I think about big growth, when I think about where you ultimately want to go, when I think about you saying that, hey, I need to generate more revenue. Hey, I want to expand my team because I have more clients and I want to create a better customer experience. Now you have to think about leveling up in big ways. And what I want you to do is start with the small ways so you can transition to the big ways. Or depending on where your business is and really where you want to scale, you might be able to jump into the big ways. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what do I mean and what do I want to provide you as far as perspective. Now, when we talk about leveling up, the true kind of mindset shifts that can happen in your business that allows your business to do things very differently, they're still grounded in the same ideas that we've already talked about. They're still grounded in the idea that all lanes and all approvals and all processes and everything doesn't need to come through you. So at some point, when you're ready to level up in a big way, you're going to look for someone who can help take the weight off of your shoulders and come into your team and help you. Now, this person doesn't have to be full time because for most of us, full time is a big jump. This person can be part time or work so many hours per week. But the idea is there someone or is there a role in your business that if you had someone in that role, would it save you time? Would it allow you to have a better customer experience? Would it allow you to maybe serve more customers? And what I like to do is ask myself those questions. And the reason I like to ask myself those questions is because often when we think of hiring people or bringing people in, especially when we're small, we think about having somebody do the stuff we don't want to be bothered doing, having someone do the stuff that's been the annoying or the painful part of our business. Or we hire or bring people in because we're like, I don't know how to do it, but someone told me I should do it, so I'm going to hire someone to do it. Now, I want you to put that thinking to the side. I don't subscribe to that thinking. I don't think that's a good way to expand a team. Instead, I really think what you're looking for when you're leveling up and you're growing your business is you're looking at processes, you're looking at things that you do well in your business and having someone come in to not only take that off of your shoulders because you've gotten it to a point where it works, it yields results. It drives sales in your business. It actually gets results for your clients or customers, or it creates an amazing product or service. And the idea is you bring in somebody so they can take what's good and make it great. They can make something better. And their input and their approach and their fresh set of eyes at times help you level up your business because this person can actually take something that's performing well and take it to a whole new level. Now, for most of us as entrepreneurs, we want to be a part of that creative process. We tend to hold back the successful stuff, the stuff that really works well. And we want to give everyone else the problem projects because it's nice to work on those successful projects. It's nice to work on those things that are working well. But remember, as an entrepreneur, and this is the mindset shift, is that you have to lead the charge. You have to be the person that can help the business accomplish things that it's never been able to accomplish before. So, therefore, when you bring somebody else in, what it is allowing you to do is it's freeing you up to spend that time to accomplish something new, to really achieve a whole new milestone, to maybe even fix a problem that you've had before in the business that continues to allow you to grow. And the person that you bring in can not only help you maintain the work that you've already done and the things you've already accomplished in a sense, but they help you level up generally because they can come in and help grow something successful while you work on the next frontier. Now, that takes a lot to think like that. It takes a lot to think that your role as the entrepreneur is not just to work on the things that you like, to not just work on the things that work well. It takes a lot to think differently about your business and think differently about your team. So when I talk about leveling up in big ways, what I want you to do, or really even take away from today's session, is to think about, what can I do differently so I can work on those next frontiers? What can I do differently so I can work on that next amazing thing, whether it's a new product, whether it's a new service, whether it's a new process for your customers? And therefore, by either bringing in someone else to help you or shoring up your existing team to do that, you can actually do more in your business. All right. Now, I gave you the example of bringing in a team member. I gave you the example of bringing in people. But for all of us, we don't necessarily have to bring in people. It doesn't necessarily mean that the only way to level up is through hiring people. One way of leveling up is also making sure you're moving from, like we talked about earlier, that bootstrapping place to investment phase. Because when we start a business, often we don't have a lot of money. So what we tend to do is we have to hire or purchase the software that's free. We have to use the tools that are free. We have to use the things that are really, really low cost. But at some point, you're going to need to invest in software. You're going to need to invest in tools. You're going to need to invest in things that create a process that's better for your customer experience. So another way to think about leveling up is, where should you be investing the money that's coming into your business and that profit that's coming off of your business? How much of that should go into your pocket and how much of that should be reinvested in the business? Now, I'm a big advocate for paying yourself, and we're going to talk about that in a totally different Spark episode about how important it is to pay yourself. But in today's session, I want to talk about that investment back in your business. And at times, it's going to make sense for you to move from the free tool to the paid tool. It's going to make sense for you to stop making the items in your cottage kitchen license and move to a shared kitchen. At some point, it's going to make sense for you to actually move from printing the labels for your product off of the printer in your closet and instead having somebody else or a third party print them for you. And this is what I mean. This is that investment, and that's moving from that bootstrapping mindset of, I can do it all, I'll set it up myself, and then turning it into an investment in your business that can make you not only run faster, move faster, but also create a better experience for your customer. So what I want you to do after today's session is think about, where can you focus? Think about, maybe, are you ready to level up? Are you ready to think differently about something you're doing? Are you at a place where you should be leveling up? And I bring this up because I had asked myself that this year. 2021 was my big year to say, what am I going to do differently if I want a different result? If I'm saying I want to bring in people into my team, if I'm saying that I want a little bit more time to rest, I don't want to be working all the time, if I'm saying I want more time to spend with my family, if I'm saying I want to work on bigger projects, if I'm saying I want more leverage in my business, I'm asking for all these things. The question is, what am I going to do differently? How am I going to change what I'm doing so I can get a different result? And that's something I had to ask myself. So that's why I'm asking you as well, because I love doing these sessions where sometimes I tell you about stuff that I've done years ago, I'm doing with clients. But this is something I've been doing all year long. And I really feel like this is going to be my year of leveling up, because I've been spending this year looking at things that I used to do manually and trying to automate them. Looking at things that I used to do myself and seeing if my team can help me or support me through that process. I've been looking at things that I did kind of as my baseline get started and starting to see, can I bring in some expertise to make them better? Now, I've told you guys about some of these things before, but they're all a part of my leveling up experience, because a lot of that has to do with taking my email templates and making them better, hiring a graphic designer, build templates for us So therefore, I don't have the long-term cost of maybe having a graphic designer on staff. We don't have that kind of budget. But what I've found is my team works really great if they have amazing templates. So getting those designed and setting those up. Now we're working through an exercise so that all of our images are branded across all of our platforms. In the past, we just jumped into Canva, grabbed an image, and posted it. Now we're working on making things consistent. It's a small way for us to start leveling up. But the big way that I'm leveling up is me allowing my team to operate on projects without me allowing my team to interact with clients without me. Before I was like, oh, I have to talk to all the clients. I have to own and maintain all of those relationships. And what I'm finding is I don't have enough time to maintain all those relationships. I don't have enough time to follow up with people when I should follow up. I don't always have enough time to actually follow up in the time that I should be following up. And what I'm finding is I need help. I need help to achieve the level of service that I want in my business. And therefore, I have to change my perspective on how I run my business if I want my customer experience to be better. I'm going to say that again. And I'm saying that this is my like personal revelation, I would probably say, is that if I want my customer experience to be better, if I want what happens and how I transform and help the world to be better, what I had to do is change the way I run my business. And I had to change the way that and maybe it's a better way to say it, I had to change my role in my business so that my customers could get a better experience. And in some ways, that change meant me moving outside of a role or me actually coming and not being a part of a project or someone in my team coming in and supporting me and helping me. And that's what I want you to start thinking about is that when you start thinking about leveling up, it's not just about hiring. It's not just about spending more money on stuff. It's not just about buying things or investing in a sense that, well, I'm bigger now. It should look bigger because it's not about the look. To me, it's always about the customer experience. It's always about making sure that you're taking care of the people who have invested in your business. You're taking care of the people who have made that leap and say that, yes, I want to hire you. Yes, I love your product. Yes, I'm going to tell the world about it. And how do you continue to pour back into their experience? As well as how do you continue to pour into the general community experience? And therefore, by leveling up, it's not just about the bottom line. While it makes sense because when you grow that bottom line, remember, you get to employ more vegans, you get to bring money into the vegan economy. When you grow your business, it allows you to do things like donations and give back and support organizations. So there's huge power in that. But what I also want you to understand is as you level up, not only can things get better for you in your business, you may not be as stressed, you may feel better, but also what you can do is make sure that everyone's experience who touches your brand, everyone's experience who becomes a customer, and everyone who starts to kind of live in your orbit as a business or brand feels better about who they are, what they do, and how you help them achieve their needs. So think about doing things differently in your business. Think about this idea of leveling up. Think about, are you ready and how important it is for you to not only take these steps forward so that you can achieve something better, but also realize that it's not always going to be those tactics. It's not always going to be those marketing channels. It's not always something that's fancy. Often it has to do with the way you see your business, your role in your business, and how you create speed lanes, how do you create efficiency, and how do you optimize things so that everything becomes better for your team, your community, your customers, and for you. So let's get started and let's start seeing you leveling up.